Good morning, student. So we are going to start unit 5, and unit 5 have two very important topics, balancing and governor. Okay, so we will come to governor later. Now I will start balancing. So before we start, I will give simple introduction about governor, okay, and balancing. Governor, what is a governor? Okay, so now in last unit, fourth unit, we have covered flywheel. So what was the work of flywheel? The flywheel was storing energy, and when the production was more than requirement, and it was giving to the system when the requirement was more and production was less. Okay, and it was flattening that fluctuation curve. Okay, so that was the work of flywheel, because you don't want that the power generation in cycle is not uniform. Okay, if we see a 4-stroke engine, so only the power producing stroke is expansion stroke. Okay, remaining all 3 strokes are power consuming stroke. Okay, so how that engine or motor will run at constant speed, because we are getting power only in, or torque only in, one stroke. Okay, so that was the work of flywheel. Flywheel stored energy during that expansion stroke, and it was giving to the system when there was no production and requirement was more than production. Okay, and it was reducing the fluctuation of energy. Okay, so that was the flywheel. Now the same, not same but similar work will be done by governor, but governor is how it is reducing the fluctuation in speed, that we will see. Governor reduces the fluctuation in speed by varying the fuel supply. Okay, and that fluctuation is not because of internal reason, and that will be because of external. Like for example, you are having a vehicle. Okay, and uh, if there is change in load, what will happen to the speed? Okay, so if for example, if load is high, the speed will reduce. Okay, then what is the work of governor? Governor has to increase the fuel supply so that we can maintain constant speed. Okay, so governor will reduce the fluctuation in speed by varying, or like varying fuel supply. Okay, we will see what are the types of governor and all. So this is small introduction of governor. I didn't open that chapter, so I will not cover in detail. We will come to the later on that topic. Now we will start balancing. Okay, as in our unit, first we have balancing, then governor. So it's better to go with balancing. Okay, so balancing is also we will read, and there are two types of balancing. First is in rotating balancing, and then second reciprocating masses, in reciprocating masses. So I will start from here. Often an unbalance of forces is produced in rotary or reciprocating. Okay, so there are two types of unbalanced force mass. Okay, it can be in rotary motion or it can be a reciprocating motion masses. Okay, so in reciprocating mass, like we just saw in last unit, piston motion. Okay, so there was in all question we had a reciprocating mass. Okay, or reciprocating parts total mass. Okay, so that if we will see how to balance reciprocating masses, and we will also see in rotary motion. Okay, so here he has given some example like this. Okay, we will see two types of balancing: static balancing and dynamic balancing in case of rotating mass. Okay, so this is static balancing. Static balancing we will see in plane, in single plane. Okay, and then we will see dynamic balancing. Dynamic balancing will be when the unbalanced mass are not in single plane, or the masses are not in single plane. Okay, that we will see. So first I will come to here and we will see introduction first. Okay, because that is very important part. So often an unbalance of forces is produced in rotary or reciprocating machinery due to the inertia forces associated with the moving masses. Okay, balancing is the, now the definition of balancing. Balancing is the process of designing or modifying machinery so that the unbalance is reduced to an acceptable level, and if possible is eliminated entirely. Okay, so what is the balancing? Balancing is process in designing where what we do, we try to reduce the unbalanced force. Okay, how? By reducing the unbalanced mass. Okay, so for example, it is a rotating body mass. Okay, it's the axis of rotation is this. Okay, it is rotating with omega, and the mass is not at the axis of rotation and it is away from axis of rotation. So the distance between axis of rotation and mass center is r. Okay, so how much force will be there? Okay, when it is rotating, there will be a centrifugal force which will act outward. Okay, and that magnitude of that centrifugal force is mr omega square. Okay, so if it is this side, now when it is rotating, what is happening? The magnitude is constant throughout the rotation, but the direction is changing every time. Okay, so how we can balance this force? Okay, otherwise what will happen? This axis of rotation means whatever that rotor will be, it will deform in one side. Okay, so we need balance force other side also. And in rotor case, for example, if this mass, the mass center of this rotor is not at the axis of rotation and it have a eccentricity E. Okay, the mass center of this body is G, which is not at the axis of rotation, it is having eccentricity E. So how much centrifugal force will come on this body or this rotor? That will be me omega square. Okay, so I will come again here. A particle or a mass moving in a circular path experience a centripetal acceleration. Okay, there will be a centripetal acceleration towards the center and a force is required to produce it. Okay, so when there is acceleration, there will be a force. Okay, so an equal and opposite force acting radially outward acts on the axis of rotation and is known as centrifugal force, because we know that there is centripetal acceleration. Okay, we have covered in acceleration analysis. So there will be acceleration acting towards the axis of rotation, so there will be a force because F is equal to ma. Okay, so there will be an equal and opposite force acting radially outward, and that is we call centrifugal force. This is a disturbing force. Okay, so this is a disturbing force on the axis of rotation, the magnitude of which is constant. If we see in this diagram, the magnitude of this is constant, but the direction changing with the rotation of the mass. As the direction this is rotating, the direction is every time changing. Okay, so this is the problem here. We have to balance this. So in a revolving rotor, so now he is talking about this, the centrifugal force remains balanced as long as the center of mass of the rotor lies on the axis of the shaft. Okay, so if this mass is at the center of at the axis of rotation, or if this the center of this mass is at the axis of rotation, there will be no centrifugal force, because in this case r will become 0, in this case E will become 0, so there will be no centrifugal force. Okay, so then this is written here: when the center of mass does not lie on the axis of axis, there is an eccentricity and unbalanced force is produced. Okay, so this type of unbalance is very common. For example, in steam turbine rotor, engine crankshaft, rotary compressor and centrifugal pump. So rotating unbalance will be seen on these examples: steam turbine, wherever you have a rotating machinery. Okay, so like steam turbine, rotors, engine crankshaft, rotary compressor, centrifugal pump. Okay, so these all are rotating machining, rotatory machineries. Okay, so most of the serious problems encountered in high speed machinery are the direct result of unbalanced forces. Okay, if there is a small, what is we say, eccentricity, the centrifugal force will become huge. Why? Because here you have omega, and omega is square. Okay, because omega in all these, like steam turbine and engine, all this omega will be very high, and you have again square, so this centrifugal force will become very large. Okay, so if there is a small eccentricity, then also the centrifugal force can be very large in high speed machineries. Okay, so these force exerted on the frame by the moving machine members are the time varying, impart vibratory motion to the frame and produce noise. Okay, so also there are human discomfort and detrimental effects on the machine performance and the structural integrity of the machine foundation. Okay, so sometimes this force can be very high and it can break the full system, it can break the rotor like this shaft. Okay, so the most common approach to balancing is by redistributing the mass. So how we will balance this? By redistributing the mass, which may be accomplished by addition or removal of mass. Okay, so for example, if you have mass center this side, the meaning is in this portion mass is more. Okay, so what can we do? Either remove from mass, redistribute it so that this mass center moves to the axis. How we can do that? So we were talking about the most common approach to balancing is by redistributing the mass. Okay, so what we have to do? We have to redistribute the mass. How? By addition or by removal of mass from various machine members. So but how? See, this we are talking theoretically, but doing practically it is very difficult. So we will see, we cannot balance 100%, and we will come, it will come later. Okay, so like how distribution we can be done? So for can be done, like for example, if the mass center is here, we want to bring it here. So if it is this side, the meaning is this side, this portion have more mass. Okay, so either remove the more mass from this portion or add the mass to this side. Okay, so this mass center will shift on the axis, so that there will be no centrifugal force. Okay, so now there are two basic types of unbalance: rotating unbalance and reciprocating unbalance, which may occur separately or in a combination. Okay, so there are two types of unbalancing force: rotating unbalancing and reciprocating unbalancing. So reciprocating mass, like piston motion. Okay, it has reciprocating motion. And rotating, like a rotor, like crankshaft is rotating. Okay, and reciprocating like piston. Okay, so piston, in last unit we derived the acceleration formula for piston. So for example, if piston have, but there the problem is different. Okay, what, how? The direction of, like here we saw the magnitude of this unbalanced force is constant, but direction is changing every time. But in reciprocating balancing, what will be happen? It is just reverse. The direction will be same, but the magnitude will change at every moment. How? Because if you remember, in inertia force we calculated, or acceleration, there was theta. Okay, and theta is changing continuously, so magnitude is changing. Okay, and direction is only linear. Okay, so direction will be same, the magnitude will be changing every moment. But in rotating mass, the magnitude is same and direction is changing every time. Okay, so we will see now in rotating unbalance, again there are two types of static balancing and dynamic balancing, very important. Okay, so in static balancing we will see when we need static balancing, okay, and when we need dynamic balancing, and how we achieve static balancing and how we achieve dynamic balancing. Static balancing, so we will see definition, is system of rotating mass. Okay, so again this rotating unbalance we can divide into two parts, static and dynamic. Okay, and reciprocating unbalance is again a very wide topic, we will cover it later. So static balancing, a system of rotating mass is said to be in static balance if the combined mass center of the system lies on the axis of rotation. Okay, so what is the meaning? Again I will read. A system of rotating mass, so first it is rotating, not reciprocating, is said to be in static balance if the combined mass center of the system lies on the axis of rotation. If it is not so, then there will be unbalance. Okay, we will see this. But static balancing you can use only when all the masses lie in a single plane. Okay, so see here, this is the diagram. X-axis, Z-axis, okay, Y-axis is perpendicular to this. So for example, there are m1 mass. With respect to x-axis, it is making theta angle, theta 1 angle, okay, and it is at the distance r1. Okay, the entire rotor, see here it is rotor, okay, this is rotor. It have three masses, for example m1, m2 and m3. Okay, these are the mass centers, so mass we can assuming mass. So this is the rotor. Okay, this m1 mass is, for example, if you take a coordinate system, so with horizontal x-axis it's making theta 1 angle in the anti-clockwise direction, and this is the this mass 1 is at r1 distance from the axis of rotation. In similar, we have m2 r2 at theta 2 angle from this horizontal x. Okay, and then you have mass m3 at r3 radius, and this is making theta 3 angle. Okay, so but all these are in a single plane. Okay, single plane. And what is that plane? The plane is xz plane. Okay, so a figure shows a rigid rotor revolving with a constant angular velocity. The angular velocity is constant. A number of masses, say there are three, are depicted by point mass at different radii in the same transverse plane. See, static balance, see, understand the difference. When all the masses are in single plane or a single plane, so here it is, all the masses are in at different radius but in same plane, we will use static balancing. Okay, they may represent different kinds of rotating masses such as turbine blades, centric discs, etc. Okay, so if m1, m2 and m3 are masses revolving at radii r1, r2, r3 respective in the same plane, again please remember, because if the plane is not same you cannot use static balancing. Okay, if plane is different we should go for dynamic balancing, which we will see in next topic. Then each mass produces a centrifugal force. So now each mass will produce centrifugal force. So m1 r1 omega square. This mass will produce m2 r2 omega square. Now these all masses are rotating with same angular velocity. Okay, because these are mass on the same rotor. Okay, so then outwards from the axis of rotation, the direction of the centrifugal force will be outward from direction of rotation. So for example, if F be the vector sum of these forces, okay, so then it will be m1 r1 omega square plus m2 r2 omega square plus m3 r3 omega square. Okay, the rotor is said to be statically balanced if the vector sum F is 0. So this vector sum should be 0. Okay, If F is not 0, that is the rotor is unbalanced. If F is not equal to 0, if it is not 0, then there will be some unbalance. Okay, then introduce a counterweight or balance weight, okay, of mass mc. C stand for counter, at radius rc to balance the rotor, so that, see now, if the vector sum of forces because of these all three masses is not equal to 0, then the meaning is the whole system, the rotor is not balanced. Okay, then we have to balance it by introducing one mass called mc, counter mass. Okay, so now if it is balancing mass, then if we add these to all these, it should be 0, because this is balancing mass. Okay, earlier this was not equal to 0, so we introduced this part, and now because this is balancing, so the total sum should make 0. Okay, so that now it is balanced. Okay, because omega square is, we can take common, so it will be equal to 0. This is mc rc omega square, which we have added as balancing. Okay, because earlier it was unbalanced, so this is balancing mass, this is balancing mass. Okay, so m1 r1 plus m2 r2 plus m3 r3 equal to 0. The magnitude of either mc or rc may be selected, and of the other can be calculated. See, so what will be there? From m or r, this balancing mass or the position of balancing mass, the radii, one of them will be given and one we have to find out. Okay, how we will find out? We will see now the process. There are two methods. One is graphical approach and another one is analytical approach. So we will see one by one what is. In general, if summation of mr is the vector sum of m1 r1 m2 r2 m3 r3 m4 r4 etc., then summation of mr plus mcrc should be equal to 0. That is the condition of balance. The equation can be solved either mathematically or graphically. So as I told, we can solve the static balancing problem by mathematically or by graphically. To solve it mathematically, divide each force into x and z component. Okay, so see, if for example m1, so what is the x component? Cos component. This force there is force f m1 r1 omega square, so this will be m1 r1 omega square cos theta, and in z direction m1 r1 omega square sin theta. Okay, so how he is doing that? In the similar way for all, in x direction this will be the m2 r2, so this is force 2 m2 r2 omega square, so this will, there will be cos component and there will be sin component. Okay, so like that you have to add all the components in x direction. Okay, x direction and z direction, means we have to take x component and z component, and then there will be a x component of cos also, balancing mass also, and that will be equal to 0. Okay, similarly z component, which will be sine, okay, and that will be equal to 0. So if we see from here, mc rc cos theta c is equal to minus summation of all these forces, unbalanced forces, and this is balancing force. In the similar way, from this equation we can write this. So if you want mc rc, just what we can do, square both the equation and add. Okay, so if you add this, so because here mc rc m square mc rc whole square cos square theta plus sin square theta, so that will become 1, and here whole square plus whole square add, then because we have this side square, so we take both side square root, so we are getting this. Okay, now how we, so this is the magnitude of balance. Okay, if we remove the omega, because omega is constant for all. Okay, so because the entire rotor will rotate at same angular velocity, so we are not considering omega. This you will understand when we will solve problem. Okay, now how to calculate theta c? Okay, means see, you find out the mass, you got the radius, means at what distance you have to place this balancing mass, but at what angle it will be. Okay, so this angle will be calculated by this theta, tan theta c. So how we are doing this? Second by first, this second by first, so this 10 sin theta c by cos theta c, this will get cancelled out, so tan theta c, and this minus this minus. See, now he is not cancelling this minus. Why? It has some meaning. Okay, you cannot cancel this minus because this will represent your in which like quarter you are. Okay, so there is one, this quarter, another quarter, and this one and this one. Okay, so you know this one is plus plus, this is plus, sorry, minus plus, minus minus, and plus minus. Okay, so you know all the quadrants. So this sign will show you at in which coordinate, means in which quadrant we are. Okay, so you cannot cancel this minus simply, it has some meaning. You will understand when we will solve problem. Okay, the signs of the numerator and denominator of this function identify the quadrant of the angle. Okay, so whatever angle you are getting, it will, this sign will get you in which quadrant we are. Okay, so in graphic, so this was the analytical or mathematical approach. Now if you see the graphical solution, so here is the diagram, vector diagram. Okay, so for example, this is theta 1, so at same vector, you know. Okay, so this is horizontal, at same angle, this is theta 1, you have to represent m1 r1, because omega is constant for all, we have removed omega. So this is the magnitude of m1 r1 represent in vector. Okay, so if it is balanced, 1, 2 and 3 will make a closed triangle. Okay, if it is not balanced, it will not close the loop. Vector, in vector, that is the meaning. Okay, so for example, this one m1 r1, this is m2 r2, this c, now these angle are same. Okay, from horizontal it is making same angle. This is theta 1, if I draw here horizontal, this is theta 2, and if I draw here horizontal, this is theta 3. Okay, so this is m3 r3. Now when this vector sum will be equal to 0, it will make a closed triangle, but if it is unbalanced, it will not close. So now this closing vector will give you the magnitude of MC RC, and if I draw here a horizontal and if I measure this theta, that will give you theta C. So this is graphical approach. Again I will explain. We have to calculate m1 r1, m2 r2, m3 r3. Okay, and represent it by vector method. At the same angle theta 1, draw m1 r1 magnitude, take one scale and draw it. Okay, then draw m2 r2 at this theta 2 angle, m3 r3 at theta 3 angle, and make the vector, means the triangle. If it is closes, that means it's balanced. If it is not closing, then close that. Okay, from end of the to first starting. So whatever, now this magnitude, the length, whatever length you are getting, descale it, and that is the the magnitude of MC into RC. Okay, so in among these, one will be given, either M or radius. If radius is given, you can get MC. If mass is given, we can get radial position of the balancing mass. Okay, and now how to get theta C? Because we have taken this as our reference, horizontal x-axis. So draw here horizontal x-axis and measure this angle. Okay, because it is graphical method, everything you have to measure. Okay, we have to take scale and we have to draw that. So draw a line here measure this angle, that will be the theta c. Okay, so this is static balancing. Now there are some problems on this. Okay, I request you to practice this problem. Okay, I will also solve in next video. Now I am closing this video here. So this was the introduction of 5th unit and static balancing. Okay, we have covered static balancing theoretically, one problem you have to solve. Okay, now in next class I will take dynamic balancing. Okay, thank you.